Tom Marks here with Michael Higham, our reviewer for Octopath Traveler 0, who has been plugging away at it for a couple of weeks. Michael, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I've been gaming, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so we don't have a final review of Octopath Traveler 0 up. We have a review in progress over on IGN.com that you can go and read, but we wanted to provide a chat here about what you've thought about the game so far, how much you've played. The main reason we don't have a review is we got the game a few weeks ago, and there was the US Thanksgiving holiday break in the middle. It's a huge game. It is way bigger than we anticipated. So let's start there. How much have you played? How big is this? And what do you think so far?
Oh boy. So at this point, right now, I have played about 70 plus hours of the game. Now, if you are a person who has an aversion to hearing about 100-hour RPGs, maybe this game isn't for you, but if you live off of that stuff, this is kind of the game for you. Now, I will have to preface real quick that Octopath Traveler 2 is one of my favorite games in recent memory, in like the past 10 years. So that's a very high bar.
Yeah.
I would say that Octopath Traveler 0 does not quite hit that same high, and that's fine because that is such a high bar for me. But in attempting that again, or giving us another round of what Octopath Traveler delivers, I think they did a really good job of, one, adapting the mobile game, because this is based on Champions of the Continent, which was a single player RPG with some gacha elements in it, but it has been converted to a proper console-based single-player RPG, and kind of did away with the gacha elements, reconfigured it so it feels like it feels more natural, and added more to it to kind of round it out as a whole. And I really like what they're doing. There's some high highs, some pretty low lows. But in the process, I have found an RPG that really sunk my teeth into. I love the mechanics of the series, and I like how Zero plays with those mechanics in a way that still feels familiar but fresh enough. That's kind of how I am with it. And the story stuff, that's the part where I'm struggling, kind of really trying to fall in love with or trying to wrap my head around. But again, 70 hours in, there's still a lot more to play. A lot of unanswered questions so far.
Yeah, and we have a policy at IGN that we always make sure to beat a game before we do a final review of it, or if we can't, if it's a game that doesn't have an end, or if something came up, something happened, we will say that very explicitly. So in this case, we decided, rather than making you crunch 30 more hours of RPG in 3 days or whatever, we wanted to give you the time to enjoy it right, to enjoy it as you would if you were just playing it, and not force that process for a worse review that maybe isn't going to be how you actually feel, or that sort of thing. We don't like doing that. We very, very, very rarely do that. So I'm glad you're taking the time. I guess the question is, 70 hours in, is the end in sight? Do you feel like how big is this? It's a hard question to answer, right? But
yeah.
Like, how big does it feel?
I guess kind of paint a picture of how this game is structured is you see it right in the early hours of the game. There are 3 branches, and you have to complete all 3 branches, and then it leads to a singular branch, and it kind of reaches a half conclusion, or there is a conclusion to the first act of the story. And at that point, I was about 40 hours in.
Okay.
And then it's you think you're done, but you've just got started, baby. And I kind of like that. I'm like, all right, like, I'm gonna get my money's worth. And but there's like, this world is so big and there's so much to explore. You open up the map, you see all these different regions, and I get very excited at visiting all these different places, seeing what they're about, meeting the characters there, running into secrets along the way, and there's just so much of that. If you played an Octopath Traveler game before, it is very much in that vein, of course. But that comes with that takes a lot of time, and because this game is very challenging, it doesn't necessarily level gate you, or there are areas that level gate you, but you never have to grind to progress. The game naturally kind of has you level up along the way, but that process is quite long, and I think that's to its benefit. So you kind of have these 3 branches, it concludes into one, and then it breaks off into 3 branches again, and then I am almost done with that second round of branches that will then lead to another singular branch, and then I think I will be hitting the final act of the game shortly after that.
Which has 12 more branches.
Oh my God. If I get to that point and they're like, hey, guess what? You got a couple more branches to go. I'm like, all right.
This is just your life now. This is the only game you're allowed to play.
Dude, this has been my life since I was 5 years old playing these games. And I you know what? Like, maybe I'm a prisoner of my own making, but I do really love this. I do love this genre. I do love these styles of games. And in the process of reviewing one, it's really fun to kind of compare and contrast the history of the genre and all the games that I played in the past and how this fits into a modern sense. You know, a lot of people have seen HD 2D RPGs at this point. You know, Dragon Quest remakes have adopted it. This is the third Octopath game in the series. We saw a Live Alive remake. So there's a lot of it out there. And it still is hitting this modernized nostalgia feeling that I really, really like. And Square Enix has been consistently making the most of this style of game.
All right, so you already touched a little bit on the mobile roots of this game. I think one of the big questions that I had going into it as a fan of the previous games is, if I'm just an Octopath fan and I want just another Octopath game, does this feel like that? Does this satisfy that? Or am I gonna have to be like, oh, I'm satisfying that, but also I have to overlook these sort of the side effects of removing gacha elements from it? Or is it just work?
It just works.
Good, cool.
Yeah, it just works. I think you wouldn't be able to tell that this was a mobile game because if you've played Champions of the Continent, in a way, it was kind of an aside from the gacha stuff, like it felt like the anti-mobile game where it's like this is built to be an Octopath Traveler game with a storyline, with characters, with cutscenes, with these battles, the style of combat system that you recognize from the other games. So it feels like it was a very natural conversion into a standard or a game that you would expect to play on a console or just like I'm playing on Switch 2. It's on PC, like a traditional RPG structure that you would expect from Square Enix.
It doesn't feel compromised.
No, not at all. So what I will say, it's not because it's a mobile game, but I think it's because it was adapted from another platform like mobile that you can kind of see through the way it's not perfectly elegant the way quests are tied into each other. It's a little bit messy in terms of like, oh, you need to go to this objective, go to it again, and then go to it again for another cutscene, and it feels a little inelegant in sort of the pacing of the quest lines. But I think that's in the totality of things, it's more of a nitpick than anything else, because that's not what I'm going to be thinking about once I finish this game. I'm going to be thinking about the big boss battles, the character moments, whether or not the story hit, whether or not the villains were really interesting, and overall what it's saying about the world and its messages. Those are the things that I'm going to be thinking about right now. Those are the questions that are still lingering, that will probably be answered by the time I'm done with this game I'm anticipating 100 hours. But if you're worried about sort of the mobile elements seeping through into this, you have nothing to worry about.
That's nice to hear, at least for me. I'm not, no shade to mobile games, but it's nice to hear that the specter of that is not hanging over this.
Yes.
So I know you got a lot more to play still, but how are you feeling generally? We're not going to put a score on it today, obviously, but what realm are you in? And then also on top of that, besides just finishing it, what are the unanswered questions for you that you're going to be looking towards as you finish it up and before the final review?
So I like this game quite a bit, if you couldn't tell already. I am quite enjoying it. Whether or not it's going to be a good game or a great game, that's kind of where I am, where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So in terms of the things that I'm still thinking about is that the story is interesting because it's not necessarily about 8 characters and their individual stories coming together, because that's what the previous 2 games were about. 1 kind of came up short in that regard. 2 did a brilliant job of bringing 8 characters together and having it make sense. This is different because it's a little bit more of a focused story. So in a way, they have these different, like I mentioned, they have these different plot threads that kind of tie into a larger theme. And because they're not beholden to specific characters in your party and having them have stories, they're able to just, hey, this quest line is about the church. This quest line is about the kingdoms. This quest line is about the criminal underworld. And then instead of it being about characters, it's about themes. And I think that works in its favor, because also one way in which the mobile game comes through is that there are a lot of characters in this game. You're thinking like Suikoden style, where you have like 30 plus characters to choose from in a party of 8. And I really like the way that this game reconfigures the way you think. Instead of having 4 characters in your party, to have 8. So you have a front row and a back row. What the front row is the active one. And they've done this a little bit in the previous games, but this is the entire game this time. I'm still trying to figure out how this batch of characters fit into party structure. It's a little unwieldy, but when it works, it's kind of brilliant. But how that is going to play out in the tougher battles or in the final battles is really going to be a test of whether or not this combat system is as good as I think it is right now. Like it needs to hold up in those bigger boss battles. And so far, I've been impressed in that regard. But when the game gets tougher, when you start to get hit with a lot of different mechanics and the bosses start to do some crazy stuff and challenge you in those ways, is it going to be frustrating? Is it going to be hard to adapt? Is it going to be fun to adapt? Like, those are all the questions that are answered as you play these tougher fights. And those are the questions still on my mind. And I'm like 70 hours in and I'm still learning more about the system. And it's really, the foundation there is fun to play with. It is a smart foundation. But again, is boss design going to bring out the best in it?
Well, it's important, like you said, it's important to see how these things sort of wrap up, how they come together in the end. But also, it sounds like it's not going to be totally game breaking. You're going to hate it if it's not quite, doesn't quite do that, you know.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's good to hear where you're at so far. Michael, we're going to probably have your final review in the next, hopefully by the end of the week, maybe early next week, depending on how many more branches there are, I guess. But we'll see. Keep an eye out for that. Again, if you want to read his current thoughts in a little bit more detail, we have our review in progress up over on IGN.com that you can check out there. And for everything else, stick with IGN.